so much for joining us. We were able to finally get over the hump to where we could stream here on YouTube. And so now uh, we're here on YouTube and on Twitch. So thank you all for joining us. This is going to be a fun one to begin this new venture on because we are talking about our top 10 worst and best horror remakes. Now, right off the top, full disclosure, when we announced this as our topic of discussion at our last live, which you should check out, we both agreed that in order, I should say in honor, I'm still thinking about the gavel, in order to add a little element of surprise to our number one best remake, Nick and I would forego adding John Carpenter's The Thing to our list. So, when we do these top tens, and you all inevitably go, "Where's John Carpenter's Thing?" It's there. It's like this is the top 10, and then like in the heavens above this top 10, like nestled on a sweet cloud of unicorns and compliments, is John Carpenter's The Thing. So just know that. But super excited to be able to talk about these tonight. Super excited. We have some other announcements too. This is a big, full on ready to dive into some stuff. But we'll do a little house cleaning. First and foremost, if you haven't already, get busy with the YouTubing have-tos. Make sure you like it and subscribe. Put a like on the live stream. We can get it out to some more people. Make sure you follow and like the Movie Club Emporium. Go back and watch our videos. We post weekly. Brand new movie reviews go up every single Sunday. Right now, we're in the dog days of our summer block party. And this year, we are celebrating Staycation 2025. So we're doing movies that remind you it's just best to stay home for a vacation. Don't go anywhere. It's hot and gross outside. Including tomorrow. Also, I'm super ecstatic to announce that we have a new weekly, for the most part, segment going up, hosted by my gentleman friend here. Now that I've said that is weird, but to be fair, Nick and I have been friends for 30 plus years, so I think I can call him Gentleman Fran and you guys not be weird about it. But he's starting his own reviews, and those are going to go up weekly. When he gets them done, I'm not forcing him to go to the movies every week. But those videos will go up on Wednesdays. That is our new segment called Post Theater Clarity. It's where Nick is going to give you the hottest and freshest takes. Because he's literally just thrown away his popcorn and walked out the door and letting you know what's playing at your local cinema. So with that, and to let him actually speak, gentleman friend, first of all, hello, my name is Jason.
And I'm Nick. Hey, everybody. Glad to be here tonight. I'm excited to talk about best and worst horror remakes. Also excited to dive into my new segment where I will give you very raw, fresh rundowns of a movie immediately after I've left the theater. I recorded a review one night right after I left the theater, and I decided it's like I want to get more involved in the channel, so I figured this would be a good way to do it. If you're on a time crunch, my little reviews are 3 to 5 minutes long, kind of giving you some brief thoughts and kind of my immediate reaction when opinions can change over time. You kind of chew on things more, but this way you just get the raw unfiltered opinion of what the movie's first impressions are on me. I literally walk out the door and find a spot where too many people aren't walking by and record myself on my cell phone like a weirdo. So we have some. I've been going to the movies a lot, so we'll have a few good episodes coming your way. Um, I watched Shin Godzilla and Jimmy and Stiggs. So you'll have in the coming weeks those two brief little reviews from the new segment Post Theater Clarity, and yeah, I hope you all enjoy it. How are you doing, Jason?
I am good. I am excited to. This was a fun topic, and really mainly been going through our staycation movies, prepping for upcoming things, and still seeing some things in the theater. Uh, it's always weird how either August when we do the block party, summer block party, is either the theater is just a ghost town or like big movies come out. But catching what I can. I do well. Want to, before we jump into this because I'm dying to know. So go all the way back to 20. Was it 2020? Whatever year it was when Barbarian came out and took the horror community by storm. Nick and I watched it separately and went into kind of a quick review, talk about it without knowing each other's thoughts on it in the slightest. Um, I I enjoyed it. I had some fun with it. You sir did not.
Yeah. Um, we yeah, we're. I didn't hear what movie did you say? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Barbarian.
Yes, that's what I thought you were talking about, and I just want to clarify and make sure. Sorry, everyone, my hearing sucks. Um, we came away with drastically different opinions on it. I think it was a movie that started out with immense promise, and as soon as the big bad rears her ugly head, it got laughable and absolutely fell to pieces. Yeah, it was a movie that flat out made me angry. And it's funny because the reaction of everybody in the theater who seemed to have a similar reaction to me, I find it interesting that so many loved it. But hey, um, I'm not going to let one movie completely define a filmmaker's career. So I'm always open to give them another shot, especially since I got the movie Regal Movie Pass and I go to the movies a lot. So
And
I'm
so yeah,
I'm
that's
guess I'm guessing you're wondering my take on the newest Zach Frager film.
so yes, this last couple weeks, Ashton and I sat down and we went and watched Weapons, and I was like, I'm curious, this being the sophomore effort of Barbarian Zach Kreger, and it also being a very interesting film. I was curious about what your take on it was this time.
Um, it's a very different movie from Barbarian. I think there's some similarities style wise. Uh, without going too much into it, I really enjoyed it actually this time around. Um, there was a good mystery to unpack as to what was going on, and the person, without I not spoiling anything, the person or entity behind everything I found very interesting, and the further it went on, and the more that you got to see unfolded from a bunch of different viewpoints, uh, it kept me interested the whole time, and kind of terrifying the what's happening to people, and just the premise alone of a bunch of children, all these children from a class one night, up and leaving their house and disappearing. You had me interested there. Uh, well, skeptical because with Barbarian, the trailer drug me in, and then I was really disappointed with the payoff of Barbarian. I was not disappointed with how everything unfolded in Weapons. Uh, I think you had some really solid acting in it. I really liked Josh Brolin, and one particular rather interesting looking character. As said, I will not reveal anything or say anything or any details of it. It was good to see that person back in the saddle again. I will say, um, moments of humor and definitely actually a lot of moments of humor and some good moments of suspense. I will conclude this by saying this: Zach Krager, he needs to make a more straightforward linear story next time, because I'm kind of afraid doing these kind of disjointed timelines with things. He's going to start doing the have the M Night Shyamalan expectation of that's what people expect from him. Like M Night Shyamalan, people expect twists, and they kind of became synonymous with him. Zach Krager, um, making these interesting non-linear movies, it can work, but he I hope he doesn't. I really dug Weapons. What did you think?
What a steaming pile! No, I'm kidding. I really liked it. Um, no, I said it way back in my review of Bring Her Back, which I did really enjoy. But I was like, I feel like that movie is the pinnacle of where we are in horror, of using the new version of using grief as your main drive of horror. And I really wanted somebody to kind of steal, because it's a classic trope of horror, but to do something fun with it. And I feel like this movie is that. Because you do have a lot of people dealing wrongly and rightly with the grief and the thing of these kids missing, and how they're reacting and dealing and not dealing with it. But there's so much of this movie, whether it's the imagery or different things that make it, to me, it's not so much the grief porn that horror has had the last few big hits of horror. I had a lot of fun. I really liked the humor of it. I agree with you. I know his next movie is supposed to be Resident Evil. He's going to tackle Resident Evil. I have heard him say that he's not interested in like the horror or action, or the action parts of Resident Evil. His favorite parts of the game was the anxiety of having to go from room to room, not knowing what was coming at you next. So that interests me. And again, without spoiling anything, I will say though, there is a scene toward the back half of the movie, and it's, I think, what has divided most audiences. So you may know what I'm talking about. Because it's not the ending of the movie, but it's a big climax toward the end. Sitting with Ashton, I leaned over and I was like, "This is the funniest yet most terrifying thing I could ever think of seeing in my entire life."
Yes, it's over the top and absurd, but I can dig it.
Yeah.
And yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, I'm of the opinion, though, I don't think he's the guy that should be doing Resident Evil. That is a franchise I have been invested in for a very long time. And yes, I love the horror aspects of Resident Evil, but I also love shooting things and blowing things up. I think you can have both. And I think, given the fact he only has two movies out the gate, uh, and two fairly divisive movies at that, I'm hope he does well.
Yeah, I think if
Uh,
nothing else, it'll be his. It'll be number one. I feel like you would almost, well, maybe you wouldn't have to do it linear, but I feel like this could be your chance to like do something. I don't want to say mainstream, because God forbid we do something. I'm sick of the cookie cutter mainstream stuff. But just something. And again, like you, for as bad as some of those films get, I have a soft spot for the Resident Evil movies. Um,
yes.
But so I am curious to see somebody else take a crack at it, but I don't know. I'm probably maybe a little
I
more confident because I liked both films as opposed to not liking him being 50-50 for me. But it is going to be a real interesting. Let's wait and see what happens.
I getting an experienced director to take over a big property and execute it has had very mixed results. We'll see. That's the thing. We'll wait and see. Um, the bar's pretty low for Resident Evil movies. I'm with you. I love the Resident Evil movies. They're stupid, action-packed popcorn movies. Never seen Welcome to Raccoon City, but all the Mila Jovovich ones I'm on board with. But they are what they are, which is just throwaway action movies.
I even watched that Netflix show that everybody hated. And I'll go even hotter take. My favorite Resident Evil game is Village. Yeah, I said it. I said it. And no, not because of the giant booby lady. I mean, it didn't hurt, but
Sure.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm
So now that
I'm
I've lost,
basic. I love 4 and 3. Though I'm old school. Those are the ones I love the best.
well, good. Now that I've lost all credibility with the internet, uh, we're gonna jump into these horror remakes, and I did my best to kind of because you got to remember we were coming into like horror age. Like we rented things all through high school, but like seeing things in the theater, like we were there for when like the floodgates of the remakes opened. Um,
Oh, were we? Um, I don't know about you. The one that I really remember kicking things off of the big remake craze, and I know there were some before this, was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's the one that sticks in my memory. It's be the one that's like the big horror remake that really, at least in our youth, the one that really got things going.
yeah,
Um, this new wave of remaking 70s and 80s horror.
yeah. It was. I remember that's the one. Yeah, I was gonna say that's the one. I think I was a senior in high school. Maybe it was the summer before my senior year. Going to see that in the theater, a big group of high school buds, and ironically enough, that one was like, oh, well, I mean, okay, and then just the dozen years of them. I say dozen years; they're still coming out, but
Oh yeah, they are.
um, so we will start with our top 10 worst. So, do you want to kick off this the negativity to start with, or would you like me to start?
Absolutely. I will kick off the negativity. Um, First, I will say, in looking for horror remakes, uh, not only am I looking for a remake, it has to be a good movie and has to stand on its own, but does it do something to justify its existence? Do something, fresh enough, different enough, while being faithful to the original, to make it worth watching. Most of these in my bottom 10 list absolutely do not. Some try something different and really just don't work, and some are just lean heavily on the gimmicks, like my number 10. Uh, it's so underwhelming and unmemorable. It's not a terrible movie. It just pales so much in comparison to the original, and really, they they released this movie when they did as a gimmick, and it's The Omen from 2006. Do you remember when The Omen was released? It was released June 6, 2006. I think somebody 2 years prior or so it said 666, the date is coming up. We have to make another Omen movie. So they did. And what we got is Liv Schreiber and Julia Stiles kind of sleepwalking through a rendition of The Omen while the kid who plays Damien looks constipated and angry. Um, and any of the magic or the tension from the original movie just doesn't translate over. It's not terrible. It's not unwatchable. If you've never seen The Omen, you might even like it pretty decently. It just feels so bland, and nobody seems cast correctly. I think that is the movie where we figured out. I don't think Julia Stiles is going to be the next big leading lady. It ain't her. This also comes. I love The Omen. I think The Omen is a horror masterpiece. And I love Liv Schreiber. Actually, I think he's a pretty damn good actor, but he's no Gregory Peck, who just you bought him in that role so well. Uh, Not terrible, wildly unnecessary, didn't do anything fresh, and just it's one of those horror remakes like many on my list that just I don't remember it exists most of the time.
I remember I was living in Eric, Oklahoma, working graveyard at Love's, and I one of my precious evenings off, I went to the theater to see The Omen. For you to say that that child who plays Damien looked constipated and angry is giving that child too much credit for emotions that he does not portray in that movie. Um, yeah, like I love the original Omen. It's so it's such a '70s movie. You have that kill like Jerry Goldsmith's like magnum opus and a movie score. Um,
Masterpiece.
the best part about the remake is honestly Mia Farrow being cast the uh as the wet nurse, so you can look at your friend and like that's Rosemary from Rosemary's Baby.
And that I had on my list as Mia Farrow because she is the other gimmick in this
Yeah,
movie. This movie so relies so heavily on being released on June 6, 2006, and getting Mia Farrow to play a side character in this movie. And it's just, it isn't enough, and it feels like really a cheap way to try to make a remake. I think for me, it kind of getting her in there, I roll my eyes when I see her. It's like, oh, instead of trying to make a better movie, let's get hey, remember her? She was in Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, I don't care for it.
and this the filmmaker, the director. The, we were talking about earlier talking about track records and second chances with director. He would follow this remake up with Max Payne and the final Die Hard movie.
Wow, that's a great track record.
So my number 10 is a movie that I know by most horror fans or horror purists is hated regardless. Honestly, it's my number 10 because I only hate one version of this movie. And that is Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. Now, if you were in the theater and watched this movie, I get it. The whole deconstruction of the Michael Myers myth because he's just a bratty little kid is weird. It's a weird take. But in the mid aughts, we were dissecting every villain because Hannibal Lecter. Um, I will for sure admit that Rob Zombie was not the choice to write it because I'll never get used to his hellbilly characters, especially when he can do something like Lords of Salem, which I still contend is his best movie. No, my beef is with the unrated cut because in the R-rated theatrical cut, Michael Myers escapes from the like bumbling security guard team of the Firefly family from the Devil's Rejects. And so there's Bill Moseley and Mama Firefly and the sheriff guy. That's fun. So when the home video version comes out and it's the unrated director's cut, which is the only version of the movie you can get now, like it's just this unrated cut, is Michael Myers gets to escape Smith's Grove because of a prolonged, weird, and awkward and disgusting assault scene where Malachi from the Children of the Corn and some other ginger are like horrifically assaulting this mental hospital patient in Michael's room, and that was the big switcheroo. It makes that movie unwatchable for me. Like I hate that version of it, and for whatever reason, again, it's the only version of the movie you can get. Um, and so on top of all that, all the problems with you doing a remake of Halloween, you let Rob Zombie write his weird Texas Chainsaw characters into this Illinois town. And then to be like, the only version you can watch has this disgusting "I spit on your grave" esque scene in the middle of it. Um, I don't hate his Halloween. I'm a staunch defender of his Halloween too. Mostly now knowing that that movie is like an hour and a half fu to the Weinstein's. Uh, but I just can't abide the only available version of Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Um, I'll, I don't think it's a great movie. I it did not make my list, although it is. I think it's a BS movie. Um, Rob Zombie will be making an appearance on my list later on, with which we will have a heavy disagreement on. Spoiler alert. Anywho, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Rob Zombie's filmography anyway, and pairing up you taking a very simple movie and overcomplicating it and shoving in hillbillies into it, completely unneeded. And really, I didn't need the deconstruction of Michael Myers. He just the way he mishandled it tremendously. Not as bad as he did in part two, but he mishandled it. Speaking of mishandling it, uh, sometimes a little kind of low budget movie will come out and will sneak up on you, and it ends up being quite a gem. And that's what I think of The Stepfather from 1987. You have this amazing performance by Terry O'Quinn. Uh, and it is this fun movie about a serial killer who goes and changes his identity, lives with a family, then ends up murdering them and moving on. Not a very complicated premise, and man, is it really anchored by Terry O'Quinn's performance. He is great, and I will say this: the sequel, uh, the Stepfather 2, worth watching. I've not ever seen the third one. It does not have Terry O'Quinn, so I figured it's not going to have that same magic, so I never checked it out. Although I would say it's probably better than the Stepfather from 2009, which is a remake we didn't need. It turned it into this really lame thriller. And Dylan Walsh of Nip Tuck fame, he is not Terry O'Quinn. It's just a bland movie. It doesn't work, and there's nothing to recommend it. There's really not even a whole lot to say about it.
No, the OG Stepfather is one of the great forgotten horror films of the 80s, and the remake is a forgotten film because I honestly forgot it existed until just now when you brought it up. Because it's a PG-13 watered down version of the Stepfather, whose main attraction is, hey, we got the other guy from Nip Tuck to be in it.
Yes, he was Dylan Walsh, with Hot Property at the time, and it doesn't work. And it's one of those movies you leave the theater after watching it and you immediately forgot about it. I had forgot about it entirely till I was looking up a list of horror remakes. Try not to miss anything. So, yeah, boring and unmemorable.
So my number 9 is kind of I'm sneaking a little of a bit of a rant here because it's a 3-way tie. Because if you were into horror, then you knew that right in the middle of all these remakes, the the torture stuff happened, and that was really kind of kicked off with you had Saw and Hospital, but really also the French extreme wave came out. We saw things like High Tension, and so my number 9 are three separate remakes. They're American remakes of brutal foreign films. One of them was on my worst of year list last year, even though it was wildly praised by most everybody. I didn't. So it's a three-way tie for me for the remakes of Speak No Evil, Martyrs, and Inside. Because when the biggest fault of any remake is being unnecessary. I mean, really, because then why are we doing this? And because for whatever reason, nobody thinks we as Americans can read and watch movies at the same time. We have to get these weird, watered down versions of these extreme horror films. Now, I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of Martyrs. That's a real see it and forget it. Like you watch Martyrs once, just so you can like check the box that says I saw it, and then never have to think about it again. Same with Inside. Speak No Evil was that way too. I remember watching it when it dropped on Shutter and just being like, "Oh my, this is incredible! I will never watch this movie again. I don't want to see this movie again." But it was incredible. And all three are these weird, homogenized, watered down versions. Um, and I do want to say, Funny Games. I think the American remake of Funny Games because it is unnecessary, but I feel like he still captures the meanness of his original film, mostly because it's Haneke doing it. But these three were so blatantly like Speak No Evil has a happy ending, and if you've seen the original Dutch version of that movie, it does not have a happy ending.
There ain't no
Um,
happy ending.
no, and the fact somebody had the stones to be like, yeah, we'll remake Martyrs and make it less impactful. Um, yeah, I mean, like you said, less. It's just three wholly unnecessary, lesser than films. Just because I can't be bothered to see films outside of my little corner of the world.
Um, Watering down those new French extreme movies is just such a terrible idea anyway. Um, they're a rough watch. They are brutal and nasty and gory. Um, and trying to soften those is a terrible idea. I haven't seen none of those three remakes, nor do I have any plans to, because of what I heard about them and other people echoing the same sentiment. So, yeah, I will go on wondering, or not really wondering, because I'll just stick with the originals. Just like my number eight. My number eight it isn't the worst movie, but it happened to remake a far better movie that did so much more with less and such a simple premise. And what I think the original on the Mount Rushmore of haunted house movies, and it's The Grudge from 2004. The remake of The Grudge again isn't the worst movie ever, but you end up comparing it to inevitably comparing it to the original, and it tries to tread some of the same ground, only we have Sarah Michelle Gellar in the movie who not the greatest actor. Uh and the thing the ghost segments, I mean, there's a little bit of spooky imagery in it. It doesn't work as well. The original The Grudge, the Japanese version, is claustrophobic and creepy and unsettling, and just the use of silence in the movie and just the sudden visuals. It's a terrifying ghost story, and the Grudge, the Americanized Grudge, just does not capture it at all. Uh, it's kind of like The Omen. If you've never seen The Grudge, the original, you might watch this one and really like it. It just pales in comparison to the original.
I will save my thoughts on The Grudge for later. My number 8 is this to me was the first big chink in the armor for the I want to say White Sands, but not the Platinum Dunes movies because you hit it off strong. I felt with the Texas Chain, for better or worse, Texas Chainsaw remake. Um, my number 8 is the Amityville Horror. Now, full disclosure, never been an Amityville guy.
Me neither.
Um, but you watch that original one, um, it solely relies to me on the performance of, about said Josh Brolin, James Brolin, and Margot Kidder because they seem like real people. And I like Ryan Reynolds in certain things. And kudos to him for trying to get out of the whole Van Wilder shtick. Um, but like this isn't a real movie. Like you have oiled up shirtless Ryan Reynolds running around being Ryan Reynolds in a haunted house. And you have Melissa George, so like two of the most beautiful people in 2005. Uh, and then we do this weird, like the ghosts are so tooth, like they so want to be 13 ghosts. Um, that the movie is almost so funny, whereas in it plays up so much of how goofy the ghosts are that you lose the idea of the real horror. The Amityville Horror is that the what is happening to James Brolin, especially in the idea of this whole like loving stepfather trying to find his place in this family, and then this house slowly driving him insane, where it's now all putting your fingers in bullet wounds, and Rachel McNichol running around with her butt. I mean, thankfully so, running around with her butt hanging out of these jeans. And it's just like, they're like, oh, put a weird big collared leather jacket on Ryan Reynolds, and we'll say it's the 70s, even though he still has his Blade Trinity uh, beard, his like super trim beard. It's just not it's just not good. Again, I was
No,
not a fan of the franchise. It's at a disadvantage, but even not liking the franchise, I can appreciate the original movie, and this just doesn't do it.
I'm with you. Never been a big Amityville fan, although we might have to do a deep dive on how wild that entire franchise has gotten because it's gone completely off the rails. Anywho, watched this in the theater. I think there's a few spooky moments. Ryan Reynolds is miscast. He's so miscast, and I get it. He was the hotness at the time, whatever. The movie just doesn't work. I think it's an okay original movie and an utterly pointless remake. Um, my number 7, the original is a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. And if you're not familiar with Herschel Gordon Lewis, he made a bunch of early, like, violent kind of gore films back in the 60s. Uh, Bucket of Blood, um, 2000 Maniacs, The Wizard of Gore, Blood Feast. Some movies that really pushed the envelope at the time for what you could put in a movie. Um, Well, I was at the video store in the late 2000s when I saw Robert Englund on the cover of a movie called 2001 Maniacs, which is a remake of his mid 60s, Herschel Gordon Lewis's mid 60s effort, 2000 Maniacs. Now, the original 2000 Maniacs, these people are driving on a remote road. They wind up in this small southern town that's having this big like festival and celebration, and they all end up meeting grisly fates because turns out the whole town is a bunch of Confederate ghosts and they're out to kill them some Yankees. It is super low budget, but it's a very charming movie and it's actually a pretty well done movie and it's very entertaining. And I mean, it really pushed the envelope for the time. 2001 Maniacs is we've got Robert Englund hamming it up. Also, here are boobs, and that's what drags you in. It just doesn't have any of the charm or the ingenuity. and nothing to recommend it. It's just a really lame remake of an ultra low budget 60s movie, and we didn't need it, and there's no point for it to exist. But again, as with a lot of these on the worst, there's just not much to say. There ain't nothing there.
I did not see that movie when it came out. I saw it much later. Um, and my only memory of it is the terrible choice I made. Because I rented two movies out of a red box. And one of them was 2001 Maniacs, and the other one was Trailer Park of Terror. So it was not a good night in the Gracie household for this gentleman.
No.
I will say, 2001 Maniacs was the better film. Don't forget Lynn Shays running around that movie being crazy too. But yeah, it's just a weird. Um, well, I mean, of all the movies that like we're gonna take shots at, like an HCL movie is. Worse, they remade Blood Feast too, so um, it's not really a filmmaker's catalog that I feel like needs like I think we said all we needed to say with like the sheep guts
Yeah.
and red paint.
It's another one. Those are his original movies aren't deep. They're just meant to be, oh, here's some gore and some violence, which is that taboo stuff. Zero reason to ever remake any of them. So, although
Some
I've heard the Wizard of Gore with Crispin Glover is actually pretty entertaining. Might give that a shot at some point.
well, it is Crispin Glover. Um, so my number seven is a remake of a movie that I don't know that you like the original one or don't quite like it as much as I do. It's a very distinct snapshot for me of it's like the horror Brat Pack movie. Um, but it's Flatliners from 2017. I went with a group of people from work. We went and did a double feature. We went and watched Kingsman 2 and then this afterward. And I was just like, oh, Flatliners? I love Flatliners. Let's go watch the remake. It's got a pretty decent cast. Diego Luna, Elliot Page is in it. Uh, Kiefer Sutherland makes an appearance as is he or is he not the same guy from the remake or from the original because we really kind of dance around that. And I got to tell you, the movie ends, and I remember us standing up and turning to this group of coworkers and being like, "I'm real sorry about that," because it was terrible. Like it's so bad. It's the worst of those. Just like PG-13. Everything gets real quiet, so you know the jump's coming. To the point to where there was a group of young people being really loud and unruly in the theater, which to be fair was the remake of Flatliners. And we were the only two groups in there to where we were started timing when the scares would come so that somebody could holler out and go, bah! And make the other people jump. It's terrible. Uh, and it's just for a movie again, and again, I like the original Flatliners, but it's not a well-known movie, so I'm not sure who we were, what we needed to say, anything else from Flatliners. Um, but it's a terrible and boring remake.
I never watched it. No interest in it. Again, it's a somewhat okay movie getting remade. No thanks. I'm good. But you know what's worse? When you take a great movie and remake it and do a not great job. This one falls in the pit again. It's like maybe if the original didn't exist and you watch it, you would think it was okay. But there's only one Nightmare on Elm Street. And in 2010, we got a remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street that tried to do something different, and I just don't think it succeeded. The original Nightmare on Elm Street is low budget and creative and imaginative and frightening, and we got a horror icon in Freddy and a terrifying under these terrifying circumstances of these teenagers being targeted by a burnt child molester with knife hands. Frightening. Um, Great visuals in that movie. They tried to modernize it a bit and do something a bit different with Jackie Earl Haley, making him actually look like a burn victim instead of what Freddy looked like in the original. But I don't care. I love how Freddy looked in the original, and it's another one. It just didn't need to exist, and just I think pales in comparison to the first one, and just it's missing that magic of the original. And I guess since I love the original so much, I just this it really turned me off.
My number six is one that I didn't get around to seeing in the theaters. I know when it came out, I remember the buzz was kind of like, "Hey, that's not bad." And uh, so when the time came years ago, when I was a much younger man, and foolishly tried to do live videos on Facebook where I would binge horror franchises in 24 hours. So like I did the entire Halloween series in 24 hours, all the Jason movies, and one of the last ones I did was Child's Play. And so after watching all of the Chucky movies, I come to the 2019 remake of Child's Play. And I will say I I like Mark Hamill as the voice. I like Aubrey Plaza in most things. Um, but this remake, like, first and foremost, everything that makes the child's, or at least the first Child's Play work, lives and dies on Andy. The performance of the something Vincent, the boy who plays Andy. He makes Chucky scary because the movie relies on him so much outside of Brad Dourif being Brad Dourif as a killer doll. But the heart of the movie, everything relies on this boy. And for whatever reason, they were like, what if we did that? But we made Andy really unlikable. Also, we like really kind of tone it down. And I know in 2019 we can't do like, oh well, it turns out Mark Hamill was really into voodoo, and so that's how he puts his soul in this doll. But for the explanation for the new Chucky is literally from The Simpsons, where it's like, oh look here, the doll just got accidentally switched to evil. Like I was just like, oh, this is unnecessary. Like if you want to see a good remake of Child's Play, go watch Megan. Because everything that the Child's Play remake fails at, Megan does successfully.
We and you're not wrong. And this that Megan scratches that itch and just I don't know, taking and calling it Chucky and just switching it to evil AI just kind of turned me off. It's another movie. I think Chucky works well in the decade it came out in. I think Megan works well in more modern context. I think trying to take Chucky, make it more modern, I'm good. Speaking of making things modern, 80s was a big time for slasher movies. There were so many slasher movies, every which where. Some good, some bad, some kind of in between. And one of those in betweens was My Bloody Valentine. You got a dude dressed like a miner killing a bunch of people. It's not high art. It is what it is. It's kind of a throwaway slasher movie. But in the year 2009, 3D movies were making a roaring comeback. And they were, people were really wanting to get into that craze. So we come out with My Bloody Valentine 3D, which is my number five. If you watch the trailer, they were leaning real heavy into that 3D experience to really make this movie work. There's a lot of things being thrown at the screen in this movie. I'm a sucker for a good 3D movie at the movie theater. Um, but if that's the entire premise of your movie working and being entertaining, it ain't gonna work out, buddy. And My Bloody Valentine 3D is just not great. It's kind of a boring mess of a movie that really didn't need to be remade anyway because it wasn't the greatest to begin with. Nothing much to say, you know. Get Jensen Ackles when he was, right in the middle of doing Supernatural. Like, I guess they thought, he'll help sell this movie. The problem is, the movie's just lame. So, yeah, not worth it. The original is arguably not worth watching. The remake, very much not so.
I have a soft spot for both the OG My Bloody Valentine and kind of the remake too. I can't remember when Amber and I were doing our podcast, we either did an episode or a commentary for the remake. So go check that out. If I'm sure it's still up. Yeah, it's not good, but uh, I do like that it really does go for the gore of the Harry Warden. I think the idea of the pick works in the 3D elements. I didn't get to see it in the theater in 3D. I had the it came with the 3D glasses, so you kind of watch it on TV with 3D. But you're more just watching the stuff poke out. But it's not one that I'm like, oh, let's like you said, the first one isn't one that I'm like, oh, you have to watch it now. So it's one that just kind of like, oh yeah, I remember watching that. Oh, it's all right. Like so, but I do get it because yeah, it is a weird to kind of like do a low, like kind of again do a forgettable remake over kind of a forgettable movie is
Yeah.
what a weird thing. My number 5 is The Grudge. I remember seeing, and I'm sure we'll talk about maybe the movie that came out before that kind of blew this whole horror movement wide open here in America. Um, and so I was super excited, and I remember going to see The Grudge. It was myself, our friend Lee, um, our other friend Selene, and then at the time my high school girlfriend. We all went to go see The Grudge. And I remember sitting in the theater watching this movie and going, I don't like this. And I don't know, like I get it. I think part of it is that I don't want to say that it like doesn't translate well. I just think the movie does a good job of making it translate well because I'm a staunch defender of while it's not good and was hated when it came out, and was jokingly one of the last movies I saw in the theater. I think was that year was before COVID hit was the 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 new Grudge.
Yes.
I like that new Grudge because I feel like it does a better job of not having to pigeonhole what the Grudge is into this kind of like, well, it's all based on this like Asian folklore. But then again, like you said, just Sarah Michelle Gellar's running around, and you're like, well, what does she know about Asian folklore? And the new movie kind of focuses on just the idea of this curse, and it's in this house, and if you step in that house for whatever reason, boom, you're done. Like you have the curse. There's no getting rid of it. So I do say go back. Let's give that one another try. But I remember that again. That original Grudge, not the original Grudge. Sorry, the American remake. Again, was just sitting there and just being like, I don't find this scary. I mean, the kid looks creepy and he makes weird noises, and I enjoy making those noises uh, because it freaks out my wife. So that's fun. But like that's what I take away from that movie is when I'm like, oh. Um, but otherwise, like I just it as great as one of the particular subgenre of horror movies is. This one to me is not. This was the first like, oh, we could. No, you know what? Maybe we should have just stopped. We should have just stopped at the one.
Agreed. I just found didn't rank higher for me. I found it a little less offensive, but you weren't going to top the original. Speaking of going back, my number four, like number five, is a movie that really didn't need to be remade. Uh, the original hinges so much on like one scene of the movie, and that they remade this movie and they showed it in the trailer and took away any mystery. When a Stranger Calls. So the original was, I believe, had Carol Kane in it. Um, Pretty iconic movie from the 70s. And everybody knows the line that, oh, we traced the call. The call's coming from inside the house. So they remade this in the mid 2000s, and in this babysitter, she's watching this kid alone in this house, and it's dark, and she's hearing things. She thinks somebody might be in the house. She's getting these weird calls. Uh, and then in the trailer, it flat out tells you that the cops are like, calls coming from inside the house. Most of this movie is this girl stumbling around in a dark house while occasionally noises happen and phone conversations. It is terminally boring, and it's just the one gimmick it has that gave away in the trailer didn't need to be remade, and this movie is boring as hell. There's nothing to recommend it.
Yeah, no, yeah, as even worse so than My Blade Valentine is a movie from the '80s that is. I mean, you also forget. You will forget that that big reveal is not the end of the movie.
No.
Like the movie keeps on going. When all you really care about is that moment. And so for them to remake it, and then yeah, like you said, to just be like, they know what it is, and so let's just give it away. Um, I honestly, there's a remake that I did not make my list that should have that came around the same time. I think that slightly edges this one out as being stupidly unnecessary. But I'll maybe do an honorable mention here if you don't talk about it. But yeah, no, that is not wholly unnecessary and boring. Is the nicest way to talk about When a Stranger Calls. So my number four, I'm not even gonna bother turning to you when I'm done talking about it because I know you'll be talking about it soon enough. It's 1998 Psycho. What are we doing? Gus Van Sant, sir, what are we doing? This is a movie that the only thing that the only legacy this movie should have outside of this live stream is to be studied in film school of what not to ever do. But to take one of the greatest horror films and be like, I bet I could do that. Um, what if I just shot the whole thing? Well, just shot for shot, uh, but with way less talented and interesting people, and without all the fun legacy that movie has. It's just a hot, colorful because they filmed it in color. It's a hot, colorful dump on Psycho. I like Vince Vaughn. I do. I like when Vince Vaughn gets scary. I like when he gets serious. You want a hot take? I think he's the best. One of the best parts of that season 2 of True Detective that everybody hates, but I like him in that.
Agreed.
The worst casting choice. The worst casting choice. Sheldon Cooper would have been a better casting choice for Norman Bates. And now that I've said that out loud, honestly, it would have been a better casting choice. his you could like Ben you just Ben Stiller as Norman Bates would have been better. Whoever because they did Dodgeball not long after that. Uh, he's so miscast. Anne Heche, R.I.P. Um, sadly, her lasting legacy of that movie is she totally flashes Brown Eye in that movie, and it became the longest running joke on Kevin Smith's Hollywood Babylon podcast. Um, and Julianne Moore is just again a whole. It's just a movie of outside of Bill Macy. Like who were we throwing darts at the board to cast this movie? William H. Macy is the only good casting choice that's made. Well, maybe Viggo Mortensen because he's a hunky 1998 Viggo Mortensen. But again, outside
Yeah,
of studying this movie in a film class of like one of the most epic hubris failures of all time, nobody should talk about Psycho 1998 ever again.
I remember when it was. I remember it being released. I would read the reviews in the paper for various movies, and everyone's just like, "Why?" Uh, this is the most pointless remake on this list. It has no reason to exist. Also, it's my number three, so we'll just go straight into that. It a shot for shot remake. It does nothing new except for make everything worse because Vince Vaughn is not Anthony Perkins. Um, and hey, sorry, she's not Janet Leigh. It 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 just doesn't work. And so much of the original, I mean, original Psycho is groundbreaking movie by a master horror director in Alfred Hitchcock. The way it's shot visually is amazing. The reveals are amazing. The music and the acting of uh, Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh just is so integral to that movie working, and it's just a masterpiece. And because Van Zandt Psycho isn't, and there's no reason for it to ever exist. I hate this movie for how incredibly pointless it is. Uh, it yeah, it really makes me angry that he decided. It's like, how big of an asshole do you have to be to watch the original Psycho and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna remake that and just do shot for shot, just do the same thing, only I'm doing it, so it's gonna be just no. Go to hell, Gus Van Sant. Anyway, that's my take.
I will say, point out with the chat, although it goes in weird tangents, that Base Motel show was kind of awesome. It was low key great show, and I agree with Julianne Moore. I love Julianne Moore. She is one of the many reasons why most guys our age kind of always had a thing for redheads.
You're
Um,
not wrong.
Shout out to Body of Evidence. If you know, you know. My number three is a movie that it it sucks now. It sucked in when it came out in 1999. Um, and is sad because as hard as it is to watch the original, to find it, I mean, this one was on TV my entire life after it came out. It's always on TV. I don't know who watches it. It's 1999's The Haunting. I mean, Robert Weiss's 60 like the original Haunting is it's a masterpiece that you cannot hardly find anywhere. And yet this bad boy was taking up prime real estate every gosh darn Saturday on TNT somewhere. Like prime viewing hours. You were having to watch Lily Taylor talk to the worst CGI angel baby cherubs while a big smoke ghost roams around like poking Owen Wilson in the butt. It's the it's the worst. You know, there's if you're into physical media, there's a big push right now, a reevaluation, I guess, because they're going to do a special edition 4K upgrade of Spawn. And while I love Spawn, flaws and all, terrible CGI and all, this movie single handedly has the worst CGI in the history of CGI. The best part about the remake of The Haunting is how much they parody it in Scary Movie 2.
I favorite scary movie, by the way. No, The Haunting. It's absolutely miscast and boring as hell, and just is aged horrendously. Nobody's cast correctly in that movie at all. It is another one. I showed up on the list, but it's like I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm gonna leave it off. But it's garbage. It's a terrible movie. Um, so I grappled on whether or not to put this as number two and number one because of my sheer hatred for this movie. And you could argue that it's not even a remake, but I bent the rules. It there was an original movie named this, and there are aspects of the original movie that definitely show up in this. It's Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. You can go straight to hell, Rob Zombie, for doing this. Now, I have never there's apparently some director's cut which is a lot better. I don't know. People swear up and down and improves the movie. I've never seen it because this keeps on stripping away any of the mystery about Michael Myers, then gives him a lot of mommy issues. Now, because his mommy keeps on showing up as a ghost throughout the movie, which we really know the reason why she keeps on showing up. So Rob Zombie has an excuse, because he will take any excuse to put his wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, shoehorn her into any movie he makes. Any movie. He can make a movie about Gandhi, and his wife would probably play Gandhi. He just cannot resist. And we go from having to shape this blank-faced serial killer who can't be reasoned with, who, just pure evil. It's very simple to let's examine him and his childhood trauma and his relationship with his mother and all of this. And it just strips away the mystery. Everything bad you could say about the original Halloween, that Rob Zombie's first one, it applies to this and then some. I hate what it did with Halloween, the character of Michael Myers. I hate how much Sherry Moon Zombie's in it. Yes, there's some pretty good kills. I will give the movie that. But man, did it mishandle the source material tremendously, and that's why it's my number two. Go to hell, Rob Zombie.
So this did make my list. It did. I did make my best of list. Don't any fear of that happening. I have always had not a soft spot for this movie, but the world around the making of this film. Number one, seeing it and then hearing like, oh, he didn't want to do it, and they were like, just make it and you can do whatever you want. It's a real Batman Returns situation, which I appreciate. To be like, I don't want to make them. They're like, well, make it. He's like, oh, you want me to? I'll make you a movie, and then later on, hearing interviews with Rob Zombie was like, I didn't want to make it. They were like, no, you have to make it. You're like contractually obligated to make it, and we want a franchise. And so he said, all right, I'll make it. But fuck you and your franchise. Here's my Halloween 2. So it is essentially a full-on fuck you to the Weinsteins for their Halloween franchise. And for that, I kind of respect it.
I can respect that.
I'm always one that's like, I know that Sherry Moon is not good in certain things. It's not because it's his wife. I get that. I stand behind her and him for Lords of Salem. I think she's fine outside of that god awful baby voice she does in the Firefly trilogy. Let's say the two Firefly movies. If we ever do the full trilogy, I don't want to watch Street from Hell ever again. But I did make my list only because I love the pure punk rock uh uh fuck you establishment that Rob Zombie put on display and in every aspect of that film. He makes everybody outside of Brad Dourif. I think Brad Dourif is one of his best performances is in Halloween 2. Outside of him, that whole movie, he is such a just a Rob Zombie just sticking it. And I appreciate that attitude.
Well, but he pissed all over an iconic property, and again, speaking, fuck you, Rob Zombie, for doing that to Doctor Loomis. Oh, we're gonna make Doctor Loomis a complete douchebag who's gonna go on the talk show circuit trying to sell his book and rebranding himself. What? It it was just such a apparently purposeful mishandling of a great franchise or a great property, at least. Not all the movies were great, naturally. And it was so incredibly disrespectful to it. I think it's an insulting movie. Um, and I hate what he did with it. I hate some of the changes he made. And that's the thing is, you took a character who literally died in the first movie. You're like, oh, we're gonna put her in the movie a lot because it's my wife. I, oh, I, I, I will
So
lose you.
I do want to address 3 minute horror reviews here. I don't know if we've ever talked about the David Gordon Green Halloween movies. I do remember liking 2018's Halloween, and then like Halloween 2 was like or Halloween Kills was like gonna be a this bright spot in this quarantine, and like we were all down like Amber, Ashton, like the whole family gathered around to watch the new Halloween movie, and we all watched it, and so that was 2020. So Ashton would have been four, no, 9 or 10 years old when we watched that. Um, I don't remember 12 maybe. And the movie ends and he goes, "That sucked." So when a 12-year-old thinks the Halloween sequel sucks, it sucks. But I will again. I'll know. I'll defend Lords of Salem. I think it's his best movie. It's the only movie where Rob Zombie chose atmosphere and actually shows dread and tension over just hillbillies yelling "fuck" at each other. Um, I think it's a great movie. I also just recently, because I'm on a big of an audible tear. There's the novel because he wrote the novel before the movie came out. The novel's even better. I kind of wished he'd had more money to shoot what's in the novel.
Moving on from Rob Zombie, what's your number two?
My number 2 is Nightmare on Elm Street. This piece of shit. Look here. All right, I saw this bad boy in the theater, and I remember sitting there, and from the opening credits, I was like, "What is this?" Um, you have it's a movie that make where from the get go, the main star does you can tell from the first scene she doesn't want to be there. There is not there's no acting talent that could cover up the fact that she would rather be anywhere else than in that movie. And the fact that I'm watching this movie, seeing lesser versions of all the highlights of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, all like, but done terrible, like him coming in the wall, terrible. To the point of the movie where I'm like, are we really trying to sell the audience on the fact that maybe the Kid Diddler wasn't the Kid Diddler? Like, are we selling him as the good guy?
Were they thinking with that move? Trying to pull the bait and switch. Oh, maybe he wasn't.
But the whole time he's like, and I know we wanted serious, dark Freddy again. We didn't want bitch Freddy. But when he's like doing nothing but like, oh, I like the smell of you when you were a little girl, Nancy. I'm like, what are we doing? it's so the only good thing in that movie, and I can call it a good thing. It was the most thing where I was sitting there, so not having anything, and I went, "That's interesting." Is when they start talking about the micro naps when they're in the grocery store, and Kyle Gallner's like trying to get his Ritalin filled, to where he's like attacking her, but like she's coming in and out of the dream because her brain's shutting down from not sleeping. I was like, "That's interesting. We'll never do that again." And just it was just everything. It couldn't have been. And I like Jackie Earle Haley. I
I
did,
do
but
too.
he's just playing like he's just Rorschach again in this makeup that they may have looked fine, but then they CGI'd it so he looks like a hairless cat, just like saying disgusting things about children, which doesn't work because he was in that
Yes.
movie where he played a kid toucher too.
Like, hey, let's make that dude from Sleepwalkers a pedophile, and that's kind of what they went with for
It,
this look of this movie.
and again, to be like, so to make your movie stand out from the franchise, what are you gonna do? We're really gonna lean into the kid stuff. Like, what? Speaking of bold choices, Cotton, like, come on, what are we doing? And sadly, that's
Hell
gonna probably be
no.
the last Elm Street movie we ever get.
And that's disappointing. But if that's the best they can do, let it die. I was cool with Freddy versus Jason being the last one. I was great with that. What
Yeah,
a great ending. We did, we did not need a remake of that.
I
Speaking of
apologize.
movies,
So I will correct myself from now on. 3 minute horror reviews, Ben. I got it. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
so we've established we both love John Carpenter. I believe he's both of our favorite film directors. Uh, and I don't know if he ever made a truly bad movie. He did make a few that are pretty underwhelming though. And that's how I feel about 1980s The Fog. It's got some cool visuals. It's still very much a John Carpenter movie, but it's definitely one of his weaker movies. Ghost pirates in this fog, and it's cool. Has some cool visuals, some good acting. It's a decent enough movie, but it's all right. And the John Carpenter filmography, it is a absolute masterpiece compared to the 2005 version of The Fog, which is pretty much unwatchable. I was stunned when I rented this movie 20 or so years ago how bad it was. The CGI was, I mean, rough by 2005 standards. And, you know, we have Tom Welling from Smallville fame, kind of get broken into movies and whatnot. And like with Julia Stiles, the Yeoman, you watch The Fog, you're like, Tom Welling's not gonna make it in movies, is he? And he's not. This movie remade a decent movie and remade it and made it worse in every conceivable way. It is visually terrible. The acting's not great. It's it's very unmemorable, other than the fact that it's just so damn bad. That had to be one of the worst horror movies of that decade, in my opinion. And that's why, and remaking an already movie that's not even the greatest and making a remake substantially worse. That's why it's my number one worst horror remake of all time.
I was just giving you a hard time, Ben. I know. I'm just teasing you. I will say so. When we said announced that we were doing this, I started making my list, and if you know your best one, you can kind of knock out pretty quick. Working on my worst of list. This number one, my number one was the first one that I wrote down, and I remember saying that this is going to be the one that either Nick and I agree on, or I will end the stream immediately because it's 2005's The Fog. I like the original Fog. To me, it's the closest as you get to kind of like It feels like John Carpenter, like I don't want to say like his like closest version to like him doing a Stephen King movie because he did Christine, but like the Fog has that like novel like town of characters feel. I really like the Fog.
Hey,
This remake
Jason,
is god awful. I
you're cutting in
do.
and out, buddy.
Oh, why did it mute me? Oh, it muted me for some reason. Um, no, I. This remake is for whatever reason like nothing works about this remake. Not the casting, not the CGI effects of the fog, not the um going with like the weird like leprosy pirates. Like absolutely you don't care about any of the characters. Maybe Selma Blair because it's a 2005 Selma Blair and we were all still kind of like had the vapors from Cruel Intentions. But like other than that, there's nothing in this movie that's of any merit. And I remember watching me like, this is terrible. I bet John Carpenter hates this. And then that's when you learn, oh, John Carpenter doesn't care as long as the check clears.
I get it, and I can sympathize with that. And I said the original Fog's a decent enough movie. Not great enough to need a remake, and holy shit, it didn't need a remake like this because nothing does. It is it is an abysmal horror movie. It fails on every level as entertainment. Nothing works. Nothing. But the CGI is rough. It is so rough. There's no terror. There's no tension. There's nothing. This movie's a big old nothing burger in general.
Yes. Sorry, I dropped one
You
of my
okay over there?
headphones. Yeah, I dropped one of my headphones, and so I guess I hit it with my foot, and that's what was muting it, so I'm trying to be cool and grab it. And as you can tell, I am nothing but a specimen of grace and stealth. So,
So that's our worst. I'm going to step away for a moment before we come back and get on with our best of list, which will
yes.
be a lot more positive. Maybe not quite as entertaining, but we'll see.
And I honestly I feel like it might be a little more unpredictable because there are several. Again, we didn't have a lot on the list, but we had a few. I am really curious how this best of list is going to go because again, once we took the thing off the table, it was kind of like, what's your number one? Uh, so with that, I am curious, Ben. The one that you were curious if Nick and I were going to have on our list was it our best of list or of our worst of list? And did we in fact meet your expectations on that particular movie? But yeah, no, don't. And there are a lot more terrible remakes out there. Like this could easily be a part one. Because the one I was thinking of when he brought up a stranger calls when a stranger calls is prom night. The prom night remake is atrocious.
Hey, everybody.
All
I want to
right.
take a moment to thank Ben and Travis and Tommy in the chat. You all have been really involved tonight, and it is wildly entertaining. And occasionally we go quiet and get derailed. That's probably why, but never stop doing what you're doing because we love it. So, moving on to the more positive aspects of this, some of the best, and I think we truly have some really great movies on that list. On this list, that'll stand, even looking at it from a separately from a remake, or just damn good movies. Uh, I had to pare down my list, so I just want to briefly throw out a few honorable mentions. 13 Ghosts, which I believe came out in 2001. Very entertaining movie. Just didn't quite get the cut. Willard with Crispin Glover. Um, Very different remake of the original '70s movie, but a superior movie and a great Crispin Glover performance, and the very underrated Invaders from Mars from 1986, which creeped me the hell out when I was a kid. Any of those three are very much worth watching, and check them out.
One I will throw on best or honorable mentions is because while sitting here and looking at my list, I realized I didn't include it, which is a glaring oversight on my part. Um, but I'm sure it'll probably come up. Is Cronenberg's The Fly? Um, Again, it's a movie that elevates um, everything about the original. It's Cronenberg, so I'm automatically like in it. Um, it's my favorite Jeff Goldblum that allows Jeff Goldblum to be Jeff Goldblum without fully being full Jeff Goldblum. And Gina Davis, whew, I'd fight a giant bug for
Wonderful.
Gina Davis in that movie. So yeah, I did not. it did not make this list. I wanted to pick some different things, so I completely apparently glossed over The Fly. So know that I do believe that The Fly is should be on a list of the top horror remakes.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, it definitely made my list, hung on my list. But starting it off was the movie we talked about that kind of kicked off this whole thing back in 2003 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Remaking an iconic movie like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't an easy thing. Uh, the original has this low budget, gritty 70s charm, and it just seems so raw. And man, it was a game changer at the time. And it's a movie I've come to appreciate more over time. Uh, 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre is so nasty and mean spirited and sweaty and gritty. It manages to feel distinctly different from the original while being faithful, which, in my opinion, is what a good remake needs to do. I really like how the look of Leatherface. There's a lot of genuine tension, like the scene where they're in the van with Charlie Ermey's sheriff, who's a great character in the movie, and he's having them kind of go over the events of what happened with a girl killed herself in their van, and it works. It works on a variety of levels. I'm also of a big fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, which followed later on, but I think it was overshadowed in later years by other horror remakes. However, I think it's a really solid remake that stands on its own and really does justice to the original.
No, I agree. It didn't make my list. I didn't put it on there, but yeah, it not only did it like kind of kick off this whole remake craze of the mid 2000s, it also to me set the tone for what all horror would be in the mid 2000s because it's such a mean and nasty movie. And so much that came after it, whether it was, um, the splatterpunk or whatever the splat pack stuff with the torture porn or everything just had this mean tinge to it that I think feel like it started with TCM03. Um, and while the characters in the surrounding characters, the sidekicks of Leatherface in the original are frightening in their own ways. Um, Arlie Ermy is so terrifying in that movie, and I feel like yes, all the kids in this movie are kind of beautiful, um, but it works for the fresh coat of paint this movie has, and again, it was kind of like Michael Bay wasn't like the meme that he is now in 2003. Uh, but I think in the pantheon of chainsaw movies, this is especially coming off of the much maligned Next Generation. I think this is kind of the blueprint needed. This is the movie that needed to start this whole remake craze that kind of took off in the early 2000s. So my number 10 is one that I'm sure one version, one take of a remake of this story might be on your list. And that one is arguably the better of the remakes of the original. But this is the one I've always enjoyed because it's highly underrated, and I think does a really great job. It's kind of being a prequel remake in a way, and it's Body Snatchers from 1993. Uh, Abel Ferrer directs the crap out of this movie. You have prime Meg Tilly and a very young Gabrielle Anwar, Arlie Ermy, and the idea of the alien invasion of body snatchers takes place on a military base. Um,
Makes sense.
it does, and they how much further they take the pod people stuff is so gnarly. Again, I agree. The Donald Sutherland '70s one is probably the best version of this story on film, but I love this '90s version. It's one that nobody ever talks about, but I think is a
And
wildly underrated but well deserving remake.
it's a damn good movie. It's tense. It's you feel the paranoia, and you just get this feeling like things aren't gonna be okay. Meg Tilly's speech about where you're gonna go is thrilling. Um, I'm with you. The Donald Sutherland version is probably overall the best, especially with that ending. I love Body Snatchers. It's probably my favorite out of them. It didn't make my list. Very much, very much worth checking out. So when remaking something that's remaking a movie that's one of my favorites, it's really easy to turn me off to it. Love the vampire genre, and high up on my list is Fright Night from the mid '80s. I believe it's '85. Amazing vampire movie. I bought them both at a video store going out of business back in high school. Still own those tapes, Fright Night 1 and 2. The original Fright Night is a classic and one I love sharing with people. But the 2011 Fright Night, I thought ended up being way better than I was expecting. Uh, and it definitely feels way different. It still has some of the core similarities to it. You have this guy with a single mom, Charlie Brewster. A guy moves in next door and he starts becoming suspicious that he's a vampire. But it handles it in a very different way, in a way that feels definitely a lot more modernized. I can appreciate that they did some different things, especially like David Tennant, his character in it kind of plays this Chris Angel mind freak style magician who just happens to be aware of the fact that vampires exist and he knows how to deal with them. It just messed him up mentally. Colin Farrell as Jerry Dandridge doesn't sound like it would work, but I think it does. I think he seems like just like the hunky guy next door, and he's suave, but he can be utterly terrifying. Uh, and it succeeds. I really like the Las Vegas setting, and it felt fresh and different, but it did justice to the original, and I love the hell out of it for it. R.I.P. Anton Yelkin. We lost a big talent with him. I think he does great in this movie as Charlie Brewster, and it makes me sad anytime I talk about a movie involving him because it's just tragic. But Friday Night 2011, worth a watch.
So the most shocking thing to me is that this movie, my number 9, made my list and only made your honorable mentions because dollars to donuts, I would have sworn this would have made your top 10. And it's Willard from 2003. Uh, I I don't know that I've actually even seen the original Willard.
I
Um,
haven't.
but I remember when you bought this movie, and of course, I mean, the trailers leading up to it were fantastic. This is a movie that how weird and creepy Crispin Glover is was just made for him. Um,
Yes.
this is one that again it's kind of lost because I don't know that it made the jump off of New Line Platinum Edition DVD. This is a fun movie. It has a killer cast. You have Laura Herring from uh, Mulholland Drive. Again, Arlie Ermy,
Early Ermy.
the king of remakes, apparently. um, no, this is a great movie. It is able to be like kind of nasty and dirty without like fully going um too far. I The only thing it's missing is that Ben song. Like if you to give me like a weird like 2000s like, oh, did you hear Static X did a cover of Ben for the Willard soundtrack? Like that's the only thing keeping this movie out of the top 5.
I so wish Static X had done a cover of Ben. Which fun fact, uh, Ben was the sequel to Willard,
Mhm.
which is actually where that song came from. Was the Michael Jackson song Ben? Uh, Yeah, I just want to. I completely forget that Willard had a sequel until you mentioned that the original Willard. It narrowly lost out of being in my top 10. I think it's great. I think it's tragically underrated. I It was so great to see Crispin Glover getting a leading man role that he was born for. He's perfect in this movie. It's got a lot of style. It's creative. It's a lot of fun. Um, Moving on to my number 8. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the original. I think it's kind of overrated. Uh, but it was quite relevant to the time it came out, and I can understand why it had the impact it did. Uh, I just think the remake does everything better. Well, maybe not doing quite as much in social commentary, but it's the Crazies from 2010. Um, I own the Crazies, the original, watched it, and it's one that never particularly did it for me, to be honest. Love George Romero. Some of his 70s stuff, uh, Martin and the Crazies, I just was never, well, crazy about. But man, the 2010 Crazies ramps it up. Uh, and it's wild. It's about this chemical weapon getting loose in the water supply of this town and turns people into homicidal lunatics. And these people are trying to survive and escape while avoiding these crazed infected people as well as the government. As, and it's terrifying. um Timothy Oliphant, I think, is pretty damn great, and I think he does very well in this movie. It is tense, it is violent, and it unlike Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, just mean spirited, but it works. I think the Crazy should get more credit than it does. I think it upstages the original. Uh, and I think it does a great job with the ending as well.
So my number 8 is a movie that honestly, when I talked about one of the worst things a remake can do, one of the best things a remake can do, a thing that will make a remake, to me, like just heads and shoulders above everything else in that subgenre, is when you can elevate whatever it is you're remaking. And yes, the original, I have it. Arrow did a beautiful Blu-ray of it, uh, but it's kind of a boring movie. And 2010's The Crazies outkicks its coverage. Yeah, it is. And again, coming off the heels of, you know, you're remaking this movie. You're coming post 28 days later, but you're totally something different. I love this small town just falling apart piece by piece as it devours itself. I think Timothy Oliphant is fantastically cast. Uh, him, uh, Rhoda Mitchell as his pregnant wife. The dude who plays the deputy is so good in this. Um, I am curious. There's the topic we have talked about before about directors who kind of, for whatever reason, one way reason or another, get put in like in movie jail. I want to know what happened to this guy, Breck Eisner, because like he did this, which is a killer remake, and of course, as soon as he did, like all the websites were like, well, he's gonna remake everything. He was supposed to be remaking Scanners. He was gonna remake The Brood, and I don't know that I've heard his name since. But man, the crazies to take a movie that is well regarded because of the filmmaker by people who probably haven't seen it, but they're like, well, he made the Dead movies, so
Honestly,
it's
yeah.
gotta be great. And it again, yeah, the social commentary in that original is nobody did it better. But outside of that, it's kind of a boring, boring movie, low budget
It
movie.
is.
This movie elevates every single aspect of it, and then again, one of the best endings to a remake, bar none. It's fantastic.
I, I love they had the balls to do that. I was like, yes. It was so tonally in line with everything that had happened up to that point. Um, it's this terrifying concept, and the movie oddly seems plausible too. So, and both how something like that, the possibility of something like that happening, and how the government would respond.
Oh,
Terrifying, fantastic.
the scene of the dude just strolling onto a little league baseball diamond carrying a shotgun, haunting.
Yes. And it's just this is like this normal well lit day, and this guy just comes up, and the the sheriff ends up having to shoot him, and it's just seeing the town just, as you said, devour itself. It's man, what a great. I need to rewatch. It's been too long. Um, my number seven also remakes an iconic George Romero movie. Uh and this one might be one of the more controversial ones on my list because I know not everyone feels the same as me. You okay? You're just kind of
Yeah.
frozen place.
No, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Um,
Continue.
yes, I watched this on cable back in the '90s with my sister, and I just adored it. I saw Night of the Living Dead 1990 before I saw the original. I watched them both. The original is iconic, a classic, groundbreaking. But man, the 1990 version is so much damn fun. Directed by Tom Savini, has humor and action, and definitely does a lot differently than the original, while still being these people trapped in a farmhouse with zombies outside. Tony Todd, roundhouse kicking zombies, attacking them with a frying pan. Uh, was amazing. He's great in this movie. Barbara, they they handle Barbara so much differently, where he like steps up and becomes a badass. For the original, she just has a mental breakdown, which, while realistic, I like badass Barbara. Tom Savini directing this movie, the gore effects and the zombie effects are awesome. So doing something fresh while faithful to the original, sign me up. I love Night of the Living Dead 1990.
So, if I hadn't known you since I was 8 years old, then right now would be one of those stepbrother, did we just become best friends moments? Because holy fucking shit. My number seven is the Night of the Living Dead remake from 1990. My first time seeing the OG one was your VHS that you had of the original. I think for like one of my birthdays, we watched that and Haunted Honeymoon with Gene Wilder.
We did, yes.
Um, but the 1991, I saw at least 3 times on Monster Vision when I should have been in bed as a little boy. But my bedroom was at the back of the house, and I had this red Oscar Mayer director's chair that I would set in right in front of my small television and when everybody was asleep, I would watch Monster Vision late at night. Ironically enough, it was a black and white television, so I did not see it in color till DVD. I only saw it in black and white, and it works for there too. But yeah, I love the '90s version of Night of the Living Dead. I think the zombies are great. I love Barbara. Um, Though I always think of the scene where the giant fat zombie falls off the banister, haunting. Um, and the part where she's like walking through the crowd of zombies, and the ones with the baby doll, and she's just like trying to keep it together, and like try not to cry while just shooting the zombie in the face. And yeah, watching Tony Todd, the scene where he's been bitten and he's just trying to find a fucking cigarette. He just wants a cigarette. Oh, it's such a great movie, and it's sad that nobody really gives it its due because it is a fantastic remake.
I gotta give credit. Patricia Tallman plays Barbara, and man, I really like her. Uh, I've um, he was one of the. She was a pretty major character in Babylon 5, which is one of my favorite science fiction shows ever. I think she should have got more big acting gigs because she's killer in this movie. Number 6, objectively, is one of the best movies on the list. Uh, I think it does a great job of remaking and modernizing it. It's hard to it's hard to keep up with such a with one of the OG horror movies, and it's Nosferatu from last year. Nosferatu was made my best of list last year. Excellent vampire movie. Um, if you can go back and watch our best of list from earlier this year, and we delve into it a bit more. It it's haunting, beautiful gothic horror with some amazing makeup and visually impressive and a great cast. Uh, Going after a silent movie era classic, which really kicked everything off with horror. Had a, I don't say it doesn't succeed in say overshadowing the original, but I say it's a very faithful remake, which modernizes it and tells, a little bit bigger of a story. And I appreciate it, and I think it's an excellent film.
Yeah, definitely go back and watch our best and worst of it because we both had such high praise for it. Um, I know the it's kind of become a meme now, but again, going into that movie, loving the filmmaker, I've loved all his stuff, so like I knew he was going to crush that part of it. I was real worried with Bill Skarsgård. Like number one, we were all kind of in Skarsgård fatigue, and I was just like, is he just going to be another like? Is this just going to be another Pennywise? Totally different character, and to me, the standout of that movie, aside from just the filmmaking aspect of it, was Lily Rose Depp. I thought she was fantastic in it, and like you said, yeah, it to take on kind of like I don't know if you would put I don't think anybody would put Nosferatu on like the Mount Rushmore of horror, but it is definitely in like the grandfather tier of like what you could see deemed as like untouchable. Especially after the Herzog one from the '70s does such an incredible job. That's a fantastic remake. My number 6 is also a vampire film, but we slightly touched on it a while ago. It's 2011's Fright Night. Fright Night and Fright Night Part 2 are two of my absolute favorite vampire films. And I remember hearing we're going to remake Fright Night, not on your life, buddy. And not only that, we're going to do it in 3D, hard pass. This movie is so much better than it ever had any right to be. Anton Yelchin. Again, something that I brought up in with Child's Play is part of the charm of that first Friday night, even the second Friday night, is Charlie. You have to be on Charlie's side from the very beginning. The moment you dislike him, the movie you're at the movie's done. And while they don't do the same thing because they make him a little more modern, they make him a little less. He has a little bit of an aw shucks kind of ness to him in the original one. They remove that, and yet he's so. Anton Yelchin is so great at portraying that just like he's not being a dick to be a dick. It's high school, man. And so him, the kid McLovin, uh, is a great choice for Evil Ed. It was kind of the first of several times we'd see him work with Imogen Poots. To me, yeah, David Tennant, I love because he's Amber's favorite doctor, so that was always going to be worth it. Colin Farrell, man. Colin Farrell as Jerry Dandridge he's so charming. Um, uh, the scene where he's at the back door trying to get Charlie to let him in is done so fantastic. Um, the only fault of that movie is that because they went with 3D, every release of that film after that is so freaking dark. It sucks. Every scan is so dark. Um, but that's a fantastic remake. That remake is better than it had any right to be whatsoever. It's a great, great remake.
I I had very low expectations. Like, you're remaking Fright Night. You better do a damn good job, and it did. And that's why I made my list. Not quite as high, but I really enjoyed it. I just realized my number 5 is also another remake of a George Romero movie. I wrote out my list, and it didn't hit me at all that I had 3 George Romero movies remakes on this list. Um, but this holds a very special place in my heart. Uh, I had so badly been wanting more quality zombie movies, and in 2004 we got a hell of a remake in Dawn of the Dead. Um, I love the original Dawn of the Dead, iconic zombie movie, but I think it was prime for a remake and a refreshing when it hit. Um, and they went for something, and they changed. You still had this group of survivors in a mall, but you made the zombies faster, and you'd increase the size of the group and the distrust among them, uh, and added the elements, of a character outside of the main mall, and they're communicating with him. All of which I loved, and they come with the conclusion like, okay, we're gonna have to get out of here. Uh, and man, what an opening to a movie! Before the opening credits roll, this movie just hits the ground running at a breakneck pace. That opening is one of the finest in any horror movies. Uh, Tense and terrifying, and it's so just you're thrown into this very disorienting situation because in this version of the zombie apocalypse, things fall apart incredibly quickly, and it goes from everything's fine to the world is completely falling apart in less than a day, and these people are just trying to figure it out and find some way to survive this terrifying ordeal. It's probably my favorite Zack Snyder movie. I 2004 Dawn of the Dead, love it. And there's one thing it does that I think it does better than the original Dawn of the Dead. The original Dawn of the Dead has a spot in the middle of the movie that it just kind of comes to a screeching halt, and there's a slow spot which every time I watch it I'm reminded of. This movie doesn't have that. So I can appreciate that they improved on it in that regard. Otherwise, love the original, but remake, damn good remake.
I I didn't put it on my list, but copy and paste everything you said. Um, it's one of those things where anytime you get on the internet and somebody starts talking about Snyder, and you inevitably get the I hate Zack Snyder, I always go Dawn of the Dead, like because love him or hate him, it's a great film remake.
Did you and
Yeah,
I go to see this together?
we did. We went, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought we did. Yeah.
But we didn't go to Lawton to the movies very often, but it was 28 days later, Dawn of the Dead.
And Fear.com.
No, that was at the city. It was the one of the Lord of the Rings. Was it Return of the King? Maybe. Yeah, it was because I was instead of
It was
going
Return of the King.
my college day was like college is whatever, dude. I'm going to see Return of the King. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic remake. And with again the opening, and then the ending just nail it. Um,
Oh, I also getting to see. I watch Modern Family. Getting to see like evil douchebag Phil Dunphy is really entertaining now.
that's the other thing too. That movie, like the depth of that cast, just all these kind of like no name character actors who now pop up all the time, and I think about them. The actor who
Yes,
plays the head security guard, like his run in
he's in
like House of
everything.
Cards and everything, he's fantastic. It's and Sarah Pauli's fantastic. Like it's just a great,
She is. She really is. And of course, the great Ving Rhames and
yeah,
uh, intimidating as hell in that movie. And just I really like what they did with I can't remember the gun shop owner across the way
yeah,
and how that plays into the plot. Yes.
yeah. It's fantastic. My number five is the movie that you and I also saw together, and it's a movie that takes a film that isn't necessarily like a routine watch, and makes it a little more digestible without losing a lot of its edge, while also giving it a gimmick that totally takes the movie in a whole new area, and it's 2012's Maniac. Now, I like Joe Spinell, and the original Maniac again is one of those movies. It's one of those seedy 42nd Street '80s movies that I kind of dig. You know, like the Frank Henenlotter stuff. I just love gross New York in the '70s. But Maniac is like that's a tough set, and so for them to be like, we're gonna remake it, um, but we're gonna give it this incredible like synth score, and we're also gonna make it you're gonna be the maniac because the whole movie shot through the killer's POV. And spoilers, it's Elijah Wood who's running around scalping people. I remember we went to they screened it at Texas Frightmare in an auditorium that was standing room only, and I remember standing against the wall for the entire movie, just blown away by how well it was made and put together, and gives you the movie Maniac, but it feels a little more accessible for like, hey, you guys want to watch Maniac? If you pop off with like, hey, what if we get some pizza and like let's watch Maniac? Like your friends are gonna call the cops, like as well they should for the original. But like you're like, hey, you know, watch this crazy like Elijah Wood Maniac remake. You can probably get away with watching that with with your buds.
I fond memory from that from Texas Frightmare Week in 2013 is getting the early screening of Maniac. Never seen the original, but I'm aware of like kind of the nastiness and seediness of it. I really like that we're getting to see it from the perspective of the killer, and as despicable as he is, and Elijah Wood does a great job, you also feel for him, and you get a lot of depth to this character of seeing why he is so horrifically broken. Didn't make my list. Uh, recommend seeing it. It's not for all tastes. It's dirty, it's bloody, it's grim. It's also a really good movie.
Yeah.
Well, my number four, I struggled to put it whether or not to put it on the list. I ultimately decided not to because you could argue it's not a horror movie. It's more of a thriller, but some list it as a horror thriller. And I would say the subject it deals with is terrifying and has an extremely terrifying villain at its core. It's 1991's Cape Fear, directed by the great Martin Scorsese. Um, I caught an edited version of this movie when I was way young. I was like 11 or 12 when I first saw this movie, and it struck me just it's like how terrible and cruel and maniacal some people could be, of how not only evil but intelligent and cunning, and how if you have somebody who's not only evil but dedicated to destroying you and has the brains to do it is is one of the scariest things I can think of. And Robert De Niro as Max Cady, this guy who has spent 15 years in prison with one singular thought, and that's going after the lawyer who did him wrong, played by Nick Nolte. We got a young Juliette Lewis who's great in it. It's just Nick Nolte's daughter who's being manipulated by Max Cady. Uh, of course, being directed by Martin Scorsese, naturally, it's extremely well made, masterfully shot. The acting's just stellar. The music in this movie is so ominous and hits so hard. And there are certain scenes like when Mag Katie's just sitting on their back fence smoking a cigar while fireworks are popping off in the background. And holy shit, is it get tense. But the intensity that Robert De Niro brings to this role and how he delivers his line is probably my favorite Robert De Niro role. It's high on my list of Martin Scorsese movies. It is excellent. I think the original with Gregory Peck and I cannot
Robert
remember the other guy's name and it's
Robert
gonna
Robert
bother
Mitchum.
me. Yes, Robert Mitchum. Robert, also fantastic. I think the 91 version is even better.
Yes, it's one that I totally like. I didn't make my list, but you could totally make that's totally a horror movie. Um, it is such a good remake.
It
And good.
just I can't express enough how terrifying Robert De Niro's character is in this movie, and the idea of somebody with such a just focused mission of tearing your life to pieces on every level and ruining you. It's
Yeah.
it's relatable. This is a very real kind of horror movie. Very real. Ugh.
Yeah, the first your first images of Robert De Niro, like he's just like super jacked and those crazy tattoos on his back doing like push ups. And the camera work is just oh, and every time I like laugh out loud during a movie, I always think of like how menacing he is just smoking a cigar in a movie theater. Um, no, it's a fantastic remake, and it's a weird thing that it's one of those weird times where you'll kind of forget that that's a Scorsese movie. Like when you think of like the
Yes,
pantheon of Scorsese, that's totally a Scorsese movie.
and it's not one that immediately comes to mind, but man, his fingerprints all are over it, and I e- easily my one of my top favorite thrillers of all time, and just it Max Caddy just sends a chill down my spine.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you've not seen it, man, watch it.
and it led to one of the greatest episodes of The Simpsons, bar none.
Yeah,
uh, so my number four is the opposite end of a movie we talked about on our worst of list because this is the movie that kind of started this subgenre of remakes. and yet in the grand scheme of things is, I think, clearly the best of them, and that's 2002's The Ring. Number one, you have a fantastic filmmaker in Gore Verbinski. Sadly, he got trapped in all those pirate movies, unless you like him. Um, and then nobody watched A Cure for Wellness, even though I fucking love that movie. Uh, he shoots the hell out of this film, and Naomi Watts is great. Brian Cox, there will never be an on-screen suicide like Brian Cox's death in this movie. He double kills himself. It's insane. Uh, the horse jumping off the boat. It's kind of awesome. But this movie holds such a special place for me because it's one of those films that I remember renting it, and you guys had seen it. I think it's one of my favorite like movie club high school stories. Is I rent it and I'm watching the movie, and Shaw and Matt are together, and they keep calling my house because they know I'm watching it. They know I've rented it. So they're calling my house, and they're being like, 7 days, 7 days. The phone, I mean, it says 2002, so I have caller ID. And so the whole time they're calling me to scare me, and it's just an epic fail. So the movie ends. I'm like, this is a really good movie. That was really good. I really liked that a lot. I go upstairs where my room was in the movie room. We called it the movie room, and I had a futons where we would hang out and watch movies. And I was like, I'm gonna lay here. It's kind of late, but I'm gonna lay here. I'm gonna watch a movie. And so I remember it was the VHS of Blade. So I pop in the VHS of Blade. I'm watching Blade. Love Blade. My VCR would, when the movie ended, it would auto rewind the tape, but then the connection between the television and the VCR would turn off. And so it would go to static. So the movie ends. I turn the TV off, but not the VCR. For whatever reason, I kind of go to sleep. I roll over at some point in the night onto the television remote to turn the TV on, and the VCR has been on the entire time. So I'm asleep, and I wake up to my TV turning on to nothing but static, and I nearly shit my pants. So for that reason alone, The Ring will always hold a special place on any like horror list we ever do. But I do think it is a great remake. It definitely like gives you everything that The Ring does and Americanizes it, but without having to quote unquote dumb it down for us. And I think it's the best of the J horror remakes, bar none. It's a fantastic film. Um, don't pay attention to the sequels, but The Ring is amazing.
Creepy movie, a movie that creeped the hell out of me back in high school. And I hate to say, I've never seen the original Japanese version, and I really need to fix that. I had forgotten all about that story about them calling you. That is pure gold. We had, man, we had some great times back in the day, messing with each other while we're watching movies in various movie-related ways. Great times. My number three, you could argue, should be number one, and it's the movie you actually mentioned earlier about leaving off your list. It's The Fly, David Cronenberg, and I believe 1986. I want to talk about one of the greatest body horror movies ever. It, in my opinion, belongs on the Mount Rushmore of body horror movies. Remaking a pretty damn great 50s movie. The and one that, I mean, at the time, you watching the original version and kind of putting myself in what it would be like to be in the movies in 1958 and witness it, especially the ending. It's like, man, that's some hard hitting stuff. So it's a movie the original holds up. The '86 version amps things up and really leans heavily into the special effects. Uh, and it tells the story much differently. But it is stages the original. It manages to completely outdo the original, in my opinion. It's horrifying in seeing Seth Brundle's transformation after the teleporter experiment and his body literally falling apart as he mutates into this creature is horrifying and tragic. Jeff Goldblum's amazing in it. It the direction is fantastic. The music is fantastic. It's a masterpiece. One of the great horror movies of the 80s and one of the great remakes of all time. It might should be number one on my list. It'll probably be number one on a lot of people's list. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the Fly, to me, it honestly it transcends both horror and remake. It's just one of the greatest films ever made. It's a movie that I can't think of any other time where you watch a film, you know, horror film or otherwise, but we'll just go lean into the horror film aspect of it. That is both utterly terrifying while also in like just totally and utterly heartbreaking.
It
Like
is.
it, this movie will rip your guts out emotionally while also showing you some of the most gnarly things you'll ever see in your life. Um, this movie is the reason I don't arm wrestle. And it's a weird reason why like fingernails and the lack thereof bother me so. But yeah, it should be it's again to me it transcends both remake, it transcends horror film. It's just one of the greatest movies of all time. Because it is just every aspect of that movie is just perfection personified.
That line towards the end of the movie where Jeff Goldblum, I had to look it up to get it right, where he's near the genesis, he's near the zenith of his transformation, and he says, "I'm an insect who dreamt he was a man and loved it, but now the dream is over and the insect is awake." He's resigning himself to that fate, and it it's tragic, and you want things to be okay, but even though you know there's no chance of it being okay. What a amazing movie! I rewatched it again last year and it's excellent. It holds up so amazingly well, despite the fact it's almost 40 years old.
It looks fantastic. It has one of the, you know, Cronenberg, whether you're talking about something like Videodrome or when I reviewed The Shrouds, Cronenberg always notoriously had this idea, his style of where the movie kind of just ends, and you kind of like, no, 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 don't sound like you're not finished quite yet. The Fly has the most brutal, perfect ending. And if you've seen like the deleted scenes of like the way the movie was originally ended, it doesn't work. Like the ending of that movie ends exactly where it should, with just this
Yes.
gut punch of a whale from Gina Davis. It's just oh man, it's such a phenomenal film. Speaking of gooey, my number three is a movie. It's a remake that, much like Fright Night, when announced, I immediately my visceral reaction was no, no way. And then everything leading up to it was like, no, 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 thank you, no, thank you. And then sitting down to watch it and being completely blown away by what, not only how it makes a fantastic scary movie, but also kind of does a great job of revitalizing the franchise that it is remaking. It's 2013's Evil Dead. Like when you tell me just on paper, "Hey, we're remaking Evil Dead," I'm like, "No, you're not," because that's a stupid idea. And what Fede Alvarez does is give you everything that you want from that OG, uh, that first Evil Dead movie, and just cranks it to 11. And it again, it revitalized that whole franchise because now we've got one since then that's great. We are getting a new one, and it's a movie that says we're gonna remake this movie. We're gonna change what we need to change. And I know when it came up, people were like, "No Ash, no thanks." The smartest thing they ever did was not recast that character. Jane Levy is fantastic in that movie. The switch, the making her both the Ash and uh what's the sister's name? Is it Carol? Because
Do not remember, to be honest.
she essentially plays Ash and the girl in the basement. Um, the it's so brutal. It's so much. It's brutal but fun. It's so crazy over the top, but such a wild ride. The opening of that movie is fantastic for the cold open that it gives you with the in the basement of the house. And then just to be like, well, it's an Evil Dead movie, so why not have it end in a blood storm? Like it's just fantastic, and it's way better than it had any right to be. And honestly, again, has kept that franchise trucking along to a near perfect record of entries.
Perfect record, in my opinion.
Mm.
At least talking about the movies, there has yet to be a bad one. I highly recommend all five of them. Um, anyway, uh, moving on to my number two, I went back and forth on what to put number two and number one. Um, because I love both of these movies, and they both surprised me by their sheer quality. Now, the original is another one that's like remaking an iconic 50s horror movie, but they took it and managed to completely overshadow the original while giving it some of the gnarliest, greatest practical effects you ever see. It's 1988's The Blob, which manages to just completely blow the original away. And I watched the original a lot. It's got that fun song. It is a pretty great movie, especially for the time. Although Steve McQueen ain't nobody buying you as a teenager. You're a grown ass man in that movie. But the 1988 The Blob, it shows you everything that this organism is capable of, and it has such creative kills of it dissolving people and going after people and being this unstoppable force. It is a masterpiece of a creature feature, and it is a blown up, shining, bright, flashing billboard for why practical effects rule. Uh, it's just it it's a very and it kind of gives the blob in the movie. Uh, I like the explanation for what the blob is. You get the government kind of coming into play there too, and but the real star of the show here is it's the effects in the blob itself and how extremely well executed it was. This is how you do a horror remake. This is how you do a monster movie.
Number two is the Blob. Uh,
Yep.
it's a fantastic. Yeah, the original one I remember watching and being like, okay, I know at some point we talked about doing 50s movies, and I want to, but the Blob was never one that just like grabbed me. Other ones did. That remake though is so good. I love. Uh, it's the pinnacle of effects, man. And my favorite part is just how insane it gets. The ending with like the burned up preacher and like his weird traveling cult of like blob worshippers like is fantastic.
Oh, what an ending!
I
I just
I I can't say anything more about it. The Blob, it's such a great remake. I love the Blob remake.
Young Kevin Dillon, who actually looks a little more like a teenager, not quite, but closer. Um, Anybody who's like, oh, I need a good monster movie, The Blob 1988, that's it. You, bam, go for it. It's one of my favorite monster movies ever. Right up there with Tremors. It's damn great. It is a perfect example of how you do a remake. Just like number one, which is 2013's Evil Dead, a movie that utterly blew me away when I watched it because I went in skeptical because we love the Evil Dead. I love the original. Number two is my favorite. It's like, how are they going to remake this exactly like they did? Which definitely it's not doesn't have the goofy low budgetness of it, which works great in the original. This one's so dark and gnarly, and the music and the visuals. It is a genuinely creepy, scary movie. It manages to take that premise, do something different while making being very faithful to the a lot of the core ideas of the original, but feeling like its own distinct thing. Uh, it's excellent. It's probably in my life one of my biggest movie surprises. The movies that caught me completely off guard with the quality of them. Um, the Evil Dead, the Evil Dead series. We are now what 5, almost 6 movies in, and we're batting home runs like perfect the whole time. Uh, Blob and the Evil Dead are how you do remakes. They're how you
Yeah.
do horror remakes, feeling fresh and interesting and justifying their existence. Uh, I love that this version of the Evil Dead has gotten a lot of credit and praise. It deserves it. It's one of the best horror movies of the 2010s, one of the best horror movies of the last 30 years, and it's a damn perfect horror remake.
So I remember us talking, and Nick was very adamant that we were gonna have a lot, and we did on our best of list, and even to the point of our number ones. And so I feel like this is gonna be the most surprising. But when it comes to horror remakes, this is my number one for many reasons. The least of which being this is a horror remake of a movie that, while I appreciate its place in horror history, I am actively not a fan of. It's not a movie that I really enjoyed. Um, Outside of being like, oh well, that the what it's known for. It's not a movie that I go back to. It's not a movie that I really even like. And yet, in 2018, sitting in a theater watching this remake, I was utterly blown away. And I've gone back to this remake multiple times. It's the versions of this movie I kind of recommend. I have multiple stupidly expensive versions of this remake on physical media because I love it so much. It's 2018 Suspiria. It's a movie to where it takes the Argento original, which has no plot. It's all style, no substance. The loosest of plot for Suspiria is there's a ballet school in Germany run by witches. And Luca Guadagnino takes that and makes this incredible, different movie while also homaging fantastic horror films that nobody talks about, stuff that you can dissect for days. It's ties to movies like Possession, or the fact that Tilda Swinton plays like 4 characters in this movie, including full blown like pretty good old man makeup. Um,
I buy it.
it's the best Dakota Johnson movie until we talk about what we're going to talk about next month. um, it's just, and when it does finally go off the rails into insanity at the end, it's earned. You have a movie that was known because hey, it's a horror movie, it's a colorful horror movie. He takes all the color out of it and just focuses purely on the story and builds this world of this dance academy and makes it utterly horrifying. On top of that, you have this fantastic score by Radiohead's Tom York. Again, it's just to me, it's there's nothing better you can say for a remake than to say they took a movie I didn't like and I love the remake of it. Um, and that's this is a filmmaker that I think has shown that he is a very stylish filmmaker. Whether or not you enjoyed Call Me by Your Name or Challengers, uh, but because of this remake of Suspiria, when they were like, "Oh, he's gonna do the remake of American Psycho," I'm like, all in. I don't care. I love American Psycho with Christian Bale. This is the guy doing the remake. I'm 100% behind it because I love this remake. And when we started making this list, like I said, my first two wrote down, we're doing the best and worst. My number one is Suspiria. My number one is The Fog. Like, these were the ones I knew bar none. I've gushed over it enough. It's a fantastic remake, and I do highly recommend it.
And I've heard nothing but good things. I hate to say I've never seen the original or the remake, although your sentiments about preferring the new one are echoed by a lot of people, although it's missing that banging goblin soundtrack of the original. This interesting interesting music choices Argento had back in the day. That's one I need to fix because I've heard you speak positively of it so much, and if it be number one on your list, I gotta check it out. Yeah, Tommy, you know you're probably out there listening. We need to watch some more Argento movies and maybe check out Suspiria. So
I got in this weird little groove where uh, I actually have a bunch of them. I was getting them through like Arrow, like they did. I think it was one year we went to Texas Frightmare. That Shaw and I, maybe it was the first year that Shaw and I went, and they screened Bird with the Crystal Plumage because they had remastered it, and we watched that, and I was like, "Oh, this is really good," and so I picked that up, and then Deep Red, um, Cat of Nine Tails, Phenomenon, Opera. I've all gotten these big kind of cool releases. Uh, Granted, I also own Dario Argento's Dracula, which if you have not seen that for a whole other reason, you should watch that movie
I've
because
heard.
it is insane. But even the movie he did on he did it came out on Shutter a few years ago called Dark Glasses was really good. But I'm my Italian. That's probably my weakest link in horror films is Italian horror. But last year we did the Italian Vacation for a summer, and I enjoyed almost everything we watched. Ironically enough, the weakest link of that whole series was the Argento movie because we did that Trauma, which was like his American giallo, which was not that great.
Oh, that's our top 10 and bottom 10. As I predicted, we had a lot of crossovers on both lists, right down to there being some identical placements, which we didn't coordinate. We go into
No,
these episodes not knowing what each other's picking, but given the fact we've been friends for north of 30 years and we spent a lot of time together in our formative years, we have a lot of similar opinions on things. So,
it
yeah,
also helps that most of these movies we probably, for the most part, watched together.
yeah, a lot of them, like looking back at it, it's like, yeah, a lot of these we did watch together or at least discussed at length. So, yeah, it, it was a fun episode and a very fun walk down memory lane.
Yeah. But the good times they don't end there. We're just getting started. Because tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, our weekly review goes up on our YouTube channel. I can say that it goes up here, not just on YouTube. It is week 4 of our summer block party celebrating Staycation 2025. Because why go anywhere when you could just stay home? And we're talking about 1975's Race with the Devil, which was quite a surprise and a lot more fun than I thought it would be. Um, and then next week after that, we're wrapping it up with Vacancy. So stay tuned for more recent reviews in September before we jump into the Halloween month. But if you're like, I want fresh, hot, piping hot, fresh takes, hotter than fresh movie theater popcorn, and I want them now, well, good news. Because on Wednesdays, when available, Nick is doing a new series called Post Theater Clarity, where he will be giving you the hottest of hot and fresh takes right out of the door. Like you can, the doorbell is still dinging as he's walking out of the theater, telling you his opinion on the newest and best. This first one goes up this coming Wednesday. It's going to be the Jimmy and Stiggs movie. Week after that is his review of the re-release of Shin Godzilla. Who knows what's next? I don't. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what I have planned for September at all. Much less him. But it's going to be a lot of fun. But if you enjoy these live streams, most of them are available on a playlist on the channel. All the past ones we've done. Maybe not all of them, because I'm pretty sure there's two I need to mark as to take off fun lists so that they can be public, including the Superman ranking we did last month. Next month, we're diving back into superhero world, I guess, because we have made the terrible decision to watch and review the Sony Spider-Man less Spider-Man hero villain movies. And if that's confusing for you, think how I feel, because I've only seen the first Venom. So we're doing all three Venom films: Madam Web, Morbius, and Craven. And so 5 of those 6 are going to be first time watches for me. But we're going to
kind of look at them, break them down, and kind of say, what went wrong here? What could they have done differently? What did they do right? What did they do wrong? And what did they do really, really wrong, Madam Web? So it'll be entertaining. By the way, sorry for putting you through this, Jason. This was all my idea. Thought it'd make for an entertaining episode. I am dreading watching several of these movies, but hey, we'll have fun talking about them.
I will say this. I am going to do my absolute best to not spend the entirety of the time talking about them just sitting here screaming, "Where the fuck is Spider-Man?" Which is probably what's going to be happening as I'm watching them. But I'm going to try to save you guys from that. So you do not want to miss Morbin time next month, buddy.
No.
Oh boy.
I mean, it will indeed be Morbin time next month.
But that is going to wrap it up for us here at the Movie Club Emporium. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. It was a lot of fun. I know that apparently there were some hiccups on the Twitch stream. Apparently we were streaming we were too hot to handle for Twitch, which is one of the reasons we kind of wanted to come over here onto YouTube. So thanks for checking it out. Make sure you like, subscribe, notify bell, share with your friends. And come back, because we're here every week with something. And if nothing else, you're going to hear an adult 40-year-old man like just lament about these terrible Sony movies. But I say that I like the first Venom. I haven't seen it since the theater, but I like the first Venom, so we'll see. But until then, I have been Jason.
And I'm Nick.
And we will see you guys next time.
Later.
Bye.